Family. Offices in Clearwater. Non-attorney spokesman.
Thinking about starting your own business? Then you need to listen to the Entrepreneur Opportunity Hour from 6 to 7 p.m. There's nothing more rewarding than starting your own business. Gene will bring you tips and advice from themselves and other entrepreneurs that will help you get started. Have you already started your own business? Then call and share your story to help other entrepreneurs. That's the Entrepreneur Opportunity Hour from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
That's the Entrepreneur Opportunity Hour, Wednesdays from 6 to 7 right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hi, this is Paul Malloy, host of Freedom Works, The Paul Malloy Show. I hope you'll join us at Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, here on the Tan Talk Radio Network, where we strive to bring you the libertarian perspective on political events of the day. There's no show quite like Freedom Works, with in-depth interviews, our ultimate top 10 list, and so much more. So join us for Freedom Works, The Paul Malloy Show, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
This is Paul Porter, the arena voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning and press box voice of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, inviting you to join me and Jason Alessi for the home team every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. here on the Tan Talk Radio Network and Facebook Live, the home team with Paul Porter. Special guests, prizes, and your phone calls about the Bucks, Lightning, Rays, USF, Sun, FSU, Florida, and more. Talk to you this Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hello there, Tampa Bay. This is former NFL and college football coach Jimmy Johnson. Listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can sure use the attention.
And this is former Major League Baseball player, Hall of Famer Wade Boggs. I also hope you listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can darn sure use the money.
Hi there. This is marine wildlife artist and conservationist Dr. Guy Harvey. Please listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They need to feel worthy.
From the Sunshine State, this is Tampa Bay's Tan Talk.
It's time for FLA Law, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Perenich, Caulfield, Avril Noyes. This hour will be informative, along with taking your questions and comments. Now, here are your hosts for today's show.
That's right. Welcome back to FLA Law live on the radio. Thank you for joining us once again for your live legal call-in talk show, coming to you every Tuesday at 5 o'clock from the WTAN studios, here with the attorneys locally from the Tampa Bay area, talking about various legal topics every single Tuesday. Hopefully you're a faithful listener, but if this is your first time, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And we believe that tonight's going to be an excellent show to give you some great legal information. And of course, I'll get into more detail about who I have with me today and who our special guest is. But of course, just a little background on the show. As I mentioned, we come to you every Tuesday at 5 with legal topics. As hosts, we are the attorneys of Perenich, Caulfield, Avril Noyes. We're a personal injury law firm here locally in Clearwater. And every week we bring in experts in different fields, depending on the topic for that week. We have had family law attorneys, criminal defense lawyers. We've had estate and probate attorneys. We've had so many different things. And we also have our somewhat resident tax attorney who has come many, many times before. And it's been a little while since we've had her. So I'm so excited that she's back with us tonight. We've got some great topics to discuss, and I'll allow her to introduce herself in just a moment for those who may not have heard her previously when she has been on the show. But before I do that, I want to make sure everybody knows how they can continue to tune in. If you would like to see us live in the studio, I'll give you all those details right now. Because we are streaming live, we are actually on the firm's Facebook and YouTube channel. So if you would like to see the live feed and leave comments or questions in the chat, you can do that. You're able to chime into the conversation if you'd like. So if you search Perenich, Perenich, on either Facebook or YouTube, you should be able to find our live feed right now. There's usually like a red circle around the profile picture letting you know that the user is live. If you click on that, you should find us. You'll see myself and my special guest in the studio. And like I said, that's a good way for you to engage in the conversation. I do have the comments pulled up. So if you would like to chime in on the conversation tonight, or if you have a question for one of us, you can do that right there in our live feed. So if you're a little shy, you don't have to call in. You can just leave your comments in the chat on YouTube or Facebook. But if you're feeling brave and you'd like to join in the conversation, or you have a question for myself or my guest tonight, the best number to do that would be 727-441-3000. If you would like to call in to tonight's show, if you have a legal question for myself or our special guest this evening, again, the call-in number is 727-441-3000. The lines are open, so feel free to give us a call. And then if you are not able to listen to the whole show tonight, we'll be on till 6. But if you have to step away, I know tonight is election night. Some people are going out to the polls. I do encourage you in Florida to participate in the Florida primaries. So if you have to step away and you are going to vote or something like that, or going out to dinner, that's okay. We do have ways for you to watch and finish watching the show later, because we are on podcast platforms as well. So tonight's show and then other shows from our past will be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, just about anywhere that you can find a podcast. Just search FLA Law on the radio. You'll find the episodes. You can even go back and find prior episodes where our special guest from tonight has been on the show. Those are all going to be on the various platforms. So I encourage you to follow FLA Law on the radio so you never miss a show. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over now to my special guest tonight to reintroduce herself to some and introduce herself for the first time to others, to let everyone know who you are, what you do, and what your specialty is.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline. My name is Alina Miles. I'm a local tax attorney with the headquarters in Safety Harbor, so right here. And I basically focus my practice in tax law. I help people with IRS-related tax matters, as well as local tax, like property tax and sales tax, Florida sales tax issues.
Awesome. Now, some people may not know that a little bit of your background is that you are also a CPA as well. And so why do you think in the field that you're in, because I call you our tax guru, why that may be important to have, not only be an attorney, but also have the CPA background?
The secret is the numbers.
Yeah.
Lawyers typically do not like numbers.
And that myself included in that category.
So I pay attention to numbers as well as the law.
Good. Absolutely. And so obviously we've talked in the past about the various tax problems that can come up and why people may need your assistance for different types of things, audits and all kinds of things. In fact, I believe we had you on right around the time of the April deadline or just after, so that people could understand what happens if you miss the deadline and you don't file. And so I hope that people, have been getting a lot out of the show. But today we're going to be talking about something slightly different. We're not starting off just yet with IRS. We're going to talk about some IRS audits in a minute. But I think it kind of is in alignment with today's being election day and the fact that property taxes, I think, are on a lot of people's minds. Mm-hmm. In the city that I live in St. Petersburg, we have a mayoral race that is pretty contested. Mm-hmm. And I think property taxes is in the forefront of a lot of people's minds. They think that property taxes are too high, and some people want these to be addressed. And so everybody, I think, is really focusing a lot on that in Florida. There's initiatives on the ballot. And so let's get into that a little bit, because that's different. So I think it affects almost every Florida homeowner. And I think most people would say my property taxes are too high.
Yeah.
So for those that feel that may be you feel that your taxes are too high and you're concerned about, what you're paying, this is the conversation for you. So tune in, share with family members, friends, those that may have questions about property taxes, because this is where you want to listen. So how does a Florida homeowner know whether their property is being taxed too much to begin with?
So let's backtrack and start with the trim notice.
Mhm.
So it's important to point out that just about now, in a week or so or the week after, a lot of Florida homeowners will be getting a trim notice, which is basically an tax estimate letter from the property appraiser.
Okay.
And that trim notice, some people just open the envelope and put it aside.
Yeah.
They don't treat it. They don't look at it. They don't want to. But ultimately, you have so many days to argue and appeal your value if you think your value is too high on that notice. But you have to open the notice. You have to read it. You have to understand it.
I see.
So ultimately, it's not like a fixed tax bill. It's an estimate. It's a proposed number. So you do have the right to fight it, in other words. And it's
so this comes roughly how soon before the actual bill comes? The real bill.
This comes out every about third week in August.
Okay.
Or maybe
All right.
late August for some counties. Some have already sent those notices out.
Okay. So some people may have already gotten that. Mhm.
Yeah, but to answer that question in a long way, the value that they put on that trim notice, the appraiser puts on that trim notice, is as of January 1st. In our example, it's going to be January 1st, 2026.
Okay.
So the first step is to open it, read it, and understand what type of value they assess and what is the number.
Mm-hmm.
And then based on your understanding of what your property is worth, see if you agree or disagree.
I see.
And if you do disagree, you have an option to file an appeal.
Got it. So then I'll use myself as the hypothetical property owner. So if I receive my trim notice and automatically it sends out to me that it looks like the property value is too high. This seems off. Does that automatically mean that the tax assessment is wrong at that point?
Yeah, so the way that the assessment goes, it's step by step. First, it's the value number. So you potentially can dispute the value number if it's too high. Second step is exemption. Did you take advantage of homestead exemption? That could be huge. So that's step 2.
Absolutely.
If for some reason your homestead exemption is missed or denied or whatnot, that's another area where you can fight it, if you will, if you're eligible.
Okay.
And the third step is to look at it's called millage rate, which is how the tax is based. But you got to go to step 1, which is value, step 2, exemption, and step 3 is the tax rate, in other words.
Okay.
So it's step by step.
So looking at the value that's being placed on the property is just one of the components. But really, it sounds like there's multiple ways you might be able to challenge the notice that you receive.
Yeah, and the step 3 one sounds a little complex. Oh my God, how do I know what that tax rate should be and such and such? So what I would suggest is to start with the step 1, which is look at the value and basically see if the house in your neighborhood with your features, like so many bedrooms, so many bathrooms and all that, pool, no pool, whatnot, is it valued kind of close to what your expectation is? If it's not, then you can go to appeal it. There are various options there.
I got you. So I may be a little bit more savvy than maybe the average person, where I know kind of how to navigate the property appraiser's website, and I can click on my neighbors and I can look and see those things. But for the average person, is that what you recommend them doing, is to literally go on and kind of look at what everybody's being assessed around them?
So you kind of would have to understand whether you agree or disagree with the value. So if, let's say, it looks too high for you.
Okay.
Then you have to understand that to go to the appeals or even file informal protest, which is another way to argue the value, if you will, you have to come with something. What are those things? Those things could be basically real estate analysis, or the analysis from the realtor, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is the pictures or other ways of evidence that you can present to the appeals, for example, and say, look, my house is overvalued.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you have to come with something. It has to be some kind of
Something to
basis
back
for
it
it.
up.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I know that there's different language that we see probably on these trim notices and different things that are talking about market value, assessed value, and taxable value.
Yeah.
How does anyone really know the difference between those three?
So basically, you would want to look at first things first at the market value. Look at that number and see what that number is. Do you agree with that number?
That number. Okay.
Okay. And then assess number. So for example, if you're not homestead in your property, right, but your neighbor is, so that number is going to change you versus neighbor. So first start at the top. Look at the market value number first. So where it comes into play is where, let's say you had some kind of improvement done, like an addition.
Yeah.
They would bump up your value unexpectedly, and you're going to be like, wait a minute, last year my tax,
people.
Right, exactly. Or you build a new pool. Okay, so you could argue around the value of your pool if it's overvalued.
I see.
Now, if you did buy the house, let's say on January 1st for such and such dollars, and they have that number in the market value, you're not going to argue a lower number because you
That's
paid.
what you paid for it. Yeah.
Exactly. So in that case, it would make sense to argue and go to the appeals. But
why would you overpay?
Right.
So that's a silly argument to make. Yeah.
But ultimately, it's and it does apply to commercial and residential as well. So we need to talk about commercial side as well. But that applies to both similar strategies.
I'm not too sure. What is the Save Our Homes? I know that Florida has the Save Our Homes assessment limitation as well. How does that fit into this?
So basically, what's going on right now is that our exemption in Florida is $50,000. Okay, and Amendment 3, which my understanding is going to be on the ballot in November, is going to gradually increase that exemption to $150K in 2027. And then it's going to go up to $250K, I believe, if it's passed, of course.
Sure.
Right.
If it passes.
In 2028. But ultimately, people who applied for, and I mean, you would think everybody would properly apply for homestead exemption timely, but that's not the case.
Right.
What happens is if you applied for your homestead exemption late, you probably, most likely, will be automatically denied because you're late.
Okay.
But you could still be eligible. So what can you do? Once again, you can fight that denial. If you think you're eligible, you have to go through the steps and processes. Because if you don't, and let's say you're truly eligible, and this Amendment 3 passes, what's going to happen? You're going to miss out. You're going to be left out because the homestead exemption is going to go up.
Right.
So that's one of it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So going over then, if someone realizes this market value seems too high, there's nothing that I have recently done. I haven't recently purchased it for this amount. Why is it so high? What does a homeowner need to kind of look at and start to do to address it?
So there are a couple of ways I explained there are 3 ways to approach this. Okay. First way is called informal protest. You basically pick up the phone, call the property appraiser, and say, hey, I think my value is much lower versus what you're reporting. Is it a mistake? What kind of evidence can I provide to show you and demonstrate that my value is lower? So that's the most painless type of step or option, if you will, that you can take to fight the value.
Yeah.
Let's say you get nowhere. And typically what happens when they come to me is when they get nowhere with that step. Okay. Then the next step is when you get the trim notice, it's once a year, right? And the value, like I explained, is assessed as of January 1st, in our case, 2026. You have, I believe, 20 or 25 days to fight that value. Okay. So if you do not file an appeal, which is an easy process, then you kind of agreeing. In other words, you are affirming that trim notice. You're saying, okay, I'm just not going to do anything with that.
Which is probably what most people do.
Exactly. They just don't even open it. And then the third step, let's say you lose your formal appeal, then you can take a case to court.
I see. Now, in order to move that process into, the formal appeal, evidence-wise, do you need an actual professional appraisal done? What kinds of things are you bringing to prove your value?
So evidence rules in the appeals process are relaxed, if you will. They're more flexible versus if you have to go to court and do discovery and all that. It's way more complex.
Right.
So, it could be something like pictures. It could be something like realtor report. It could be you testifying to, let's say it's a pool issue. The pool is overvalued. You're testifying to the value of the pool, whatever you think why your market value is lower, or other ways that you can prove to the board that the value is lower than what they're showing in the trim notice. So pictures could work. Now, does it mean that if you just upload the pictures, they're going to agree with you? Probably not.
Okay.
But so it has to be
a
little bit more, facts and circumstances, but totality, the bigger picture, what else do you have to show and prove that you're disagreeing with the value? There has to be something.
So, for example, let's say I look up my neighbors to the left of me and to the right of me. We have comparable size homes. They're all the same bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, pools. One of those neighborhoods where the houses are just alike. Does that help at all?
It does.
Okay.
It's an argument.
Okay, good. I didn't know if they would even care.
Yeah,
So who
it's an
cares?
argument. Yeah, comparable is an argument.
Okay, perfect. So then, could it ever hurt if you appeal and they come out and they look at your house and say, actually, we think it's more than what we assessed before? Is that something
My
that you risk
understanding
doing?
that there is no harm in filing an appeal. Obviously, you have to file it in good faith. Like I said, if you bought the house for so many dollars on January 1st, and now you're saying, it was way less on that January 1st date, I mean, how are you going to prove that?
Yeah.
So do not make bad faith appeals.
Yeah.
But if it's in good faith, if you truly believe that the value is much higher on the trim notice versus what you have, then I don't see where it's going to hurt you or harm you. Now, when you have to go to court, if you lose the appeal and you go to court, litigation is expensive.
Yeah.
So you have to look at cost benefit. Am I going to go fight it through, pay so much in legal fees to the attorney? I mean, that can hurt if you lose the case.
That's something to keep in mind for sure. Now, you mentioned the commercial side. How does this apply with commercial property?
So commercial property owners also pay property tax in Florida, right? And where they can fight, where they can argue the value is if they lost, for example, if they lost a tenant.
Okay.
So, once again, it's facts and circumstances, but you have to look at the big picture. Why did you lose the tenant? Did it hurt your business in that regard? Did we have a hurricane? Did you have other reasons? Whatever those reasons are.
I see.
Okay, so that's something to consider and think through when you're a commercial homeowner, property owner, and you're trying to fight your property tax bill.
Good. So
once again, you have to do it timely, just like
right. So this is not just a residential homestead type deal. You can appeal even in a commercial setting.
Commercial. And the third thing you can appeal is, for example, you're a business in Pinellas County that has machinery. Let's say you're a tree guy that cuts like heavy trees and you have all those heavy machinery things, right?
Right.
So those things, if they're in excess of, I believe, $25,000, they have to be reported to the county, and they pay tangible tax on those things. So if that type of a business believes that the value of those machinery and equipment is overstated, there is depreciable value, there is rust, there is salt, whatever those things are.
Sure.
That's another opportunity. So property homeowners, commercial real estate owners, and tangible people, businesses, machinery and equipment.
Good to know. I'm learning something that I have never realized before. So I hope other people are just as are getting just as informed as I am. Now, we talked about something off the air that I want to bring up because I think this is important too. Portability, right? When it comes to homestead, that's a component that can greatly affect the tax break, right? So could you address that part?
Yeah, so portability is another perk in Florida specifically. And what, in simple terms, the best way that I explain it is that if you bought your house, let's say a long time ago, and the value of your house kept growing, you're not paying tax on that growth, if you will, on that appreciation. And I'm talking property tax, right? Because you're capped at that, I believe, 3%. So whatever, if your house value grew over years, you have so much in that unrealized appreciation that you can carry through to the next home. And this is huge.
Yes, that's awesome. So a lot of people don't realize. So is it possible that when you receive your notice, I think you said trim notice, that let's say you just recently bought a home and you are transferring your portability to your new homestead, is it possible that maybe you need to appeal that issue, that maybe they didn't bring over your portability or something like that?
So portability is separate from homestead exemption. So if you bought a new home, you would want to apply for homestead timely. And separately, you got to check the rules, property appraisers rules. But there's typically a separate application for portability.
Okay, so it's not all
it's not all
contained in
together,
one.
right?
Okay, good.
So you could be denied one or the other or both, but those are separate things.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you do both.
And they're both appealable if you get denied?
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. See, you don't have to just accept whatever decisions are, the notices you receive. You should look into it and make sure that you're challenging those. So to move on to our next subject, what's the main thing that people need to know as far as the deadlines and how long they have to address these property tax issues that we're talking about?
So it's very important right now. Today is August 18th, 2026. So in about a couple of days, I would say after August 21st, just make sure that when you get a letter from your property appraiser, you open the letter, you look at that trim notice, and the trim notice is going to have that 25-day appeal option. So it's going to explain to you there how you can appeal. It's going to have that information on it. So just look at the value, look at your tax bill, perhaps compare it to last year, see if anything jumps at you, and go from there.
Okay. And if someone somehow they forget your advice and they accidentally miss this deadline, what could that mean for them?
So typically, if they did miss the deadline, in terms of the value, okay, so then typically the gate is closed. So it's until next year.
You have to wait the whole year.
Typically, yes.
Gotcha.
Unless there are some very special narrow scenarios, like there was a mistake on the part of the appraiser, which is, once again, very narrow.
Right.
It could be arguable, but ultimately you have so many days. You are responsible for your own, financial affairs, and you need to look at your trim notice and understand it carefully.
Makes perfect sense. So at what point do you think it's best for someone to give you a call or to get an attorney involved in that process?
So first of all, if it is residential homeowner, it's cost benefit, right? So they would have to look at cost benefit and figure out, do they want to involve somebody like myself, or it's too expensive? Now, if you have commercial real estate owner, that would make more sense. or if your homestead is denied. Homestead denial is huge.
That's very big.
Yep. And I recently won a case on
Yes,
that.
congratulations.
So if you're eligible, but somehow you went through that informal protest, you took it as far as you could, and you're stuck, but you know that this homestead is going up if that amendment is passed.
Right.
You do not want to be left out if you truly believe you're eligible for it.
Right.
So that's when you would come to an attorney, because you kind of invest in, hopefully, in the future.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. So we're going to cruise right along into the next segue, which is Amendment 3, right? I think you might have briefly touched on it for obviously November's ballot. Can you tell our listeners, what your understanding of things people are hearing right now about voting, and it's right around the corner? What is Florida Amendment 3?
So I can just only speak in terms of tax side of
sure.
things. And in terms of homestead, once again, this is huge because the homestead increase is in that amendment. And the number is bigger and bigger with 2027 than 2028. So once again, if you're denied homestead and you're eligible, you're going to miss out. That's huge for tax. Another thing that it has from tax standpoint is that they introduce a waiting period to be able to apply for homestead exemption.
Okay.
So what people are doing now is they're getting their kids Florida ID.
Interesting. Okay.
Because let's say you're a US citizen, right? You live here all your life, but how are you going to prove as a kid, for example, the kid is going to grow up, obviously, and buy a house. That's the point, that you were Florida resident for that waiting period. So if you get that Florida ID, that establishes that. So a lot of people are doing that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And that preserve. So like when your kid grows up and goes and buys a house in Florida and tries to apply for homestead, it's not an issue. And citizenship is not going to establish Florida residency.
Right.
Okay. So yeah.
So I did hear that there's obviously a contingency or difference when there's multiple properties and the way that this is applied. So this is not something that's going to apply to all properties in Florida, correct?
So my understanding is that the savings piece, the tax savings piece, applies to homestead properties. So in other words, if you have second home or and so on and so forth, that's not going to basically help from tax standpoint. But yeah, so the point is that the homestead piece is preserved. But another thing, I believe that not the whole bill is going to evaporate, if you will, with this Amendment 3. In other words, like I think school tax is still going to stay. It's going to be mandatory. So there are those.
I think there's a lot of confusion about that as well. So I think people are like, oh no, we can't do this because then all the funding will be lost for the schools and so forth and so on. So there are some caveats to that. So then people that are like investors or have rental properties and things like that, there's not really any real savings to them under Amendment 3, then it sounds like.
As far as I understand it, it's going to help the homeowner that lives, in other words, resides, is homestead in their Florida home.
Now, do you know if this is an automatic tax benefit? Let's say you already established this homestead in your home, or is this something that people will have to apply for after Amendment 3, or how does that work?
So my understanding is that if you're already homestead, you're going to take advantage of that. But this waiting period that I talked about, if you're a brand new homeowner, that might throw some people off in terms of now they have to wait so many years to take advantage of it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Do you? I don't know if you know. So if I'm putting you on the spot, you can say you don't know. How long is the waiting period? Do you know?
I think it's 4 or 5 years.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's why they get in those people as a practical consideration. People are considering getting Florida IDs for the kids.
I gotcha. Okay, so then people that may have bought their home recently, there may be some issues that people have to understand and make sure you get it before you can make an informed decision on how to vote, because these amendments are obviously going to be on the ballot, and they're going to change. If they pass, they could drastically change the way homes are taxed in our state. So very, very important to know that. So.
And one last point is that a lot of people are talking and saying, okay, so they're going to cut here, but where they're going to pick up the revenue in terms of Florida tax.
Yeah, that's big for a lot of people. Yeah.
Where are they going to gain, if you will, if they're going to give homeowners a break? And people are talking Florida sales tax, that they're going to potentially audit more in terms of Florida sales tax.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Well, these are all things to consider when you're in the little booth deciding how you're going to vote. And so I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier, just before we talk about IRS audits. So let's say I am doing my own research and I go and my neighbor's house is a little bigger. It has a slightly difference, but it's for the most part, we're comparable in terms of our home, but their value is higher and their tax bill is lower. Does that help at all when saying these houses look a lot alike, but this house may be a little bit nicer than mine, but yet my tax bill is higher than theirs? Does that matter at all that, that seems to be the case in your neighborhood or something like that?
So it depends, but like, remember I said step 1, step 2, step 3. So you're thinking step 2. Step 2 is where you apply those exemptions. Okay, so maybe your neighbor has some kind of disability or military or whatever additional exemption.
There could be other exemptions
that differentiates the neighbor from your house. So that could be why.
So many factors. Okay. So that's not an automatic given, because there may be things that are going on in your neighbor's taxable issues that you know nothing about.
Doesn't apply to you.
Got it. Makes perfect sense. Okay, good. Well, then I think that's a perfect time to transition here to IRS audits. But before we do that, let's take a quick commercial break. And we will be back after this commercial, and we'll come back with Alina Miles to discuss her specialty, which is IRS audits.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
After a car accident, there are many questions that you need answers to. Who pays for my car repairs? Who pays for the medical bills? What about my lost wages? And more. The personal injury law firm of Perenich, Caulfield, Avril Noyes has been answering these questions for their clients for nearly 70 years. Since 1955, they've been a voice of the injured in the legal system. As one of the longest established law firms in Tampa Bay, Perenich, Caulfield, Avril Noyes is here to answer your questions. Listen to their live call-in radio show on this channel every Tuesday evening from 5 to 6 p.m. or call them at 727-796-8282 or visit them at voiceoftheinjured.com. Offices Clearwater, non-attorney spokesperson.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we are back. Thank you for tuning in to FLA Law on the radio. Hopefully you've been with us since 5. But if not, if you're just tuning in, then you are right on time. We are here with our resident tax guru, attorney Alina Miles, who is local here, and she has her main office in Safety Harbor. She's been on the show with us many times before. We're so happy to have her back. We were just talking about Florida property taxes and appealing on those. So now we're going to talk a little bit about IRS audits, because we know that this is a very nerve-wracking topic for a lot of people when they receive that IRS letter. So let's jump into it. I think the last time we had you here was right after the April deadline. And I know that people are obviously nervous about that and making sure they timely file. But is there any specific time that people can start to expect to see audit letters coming out after that April deadline?
No, there's really no like universal way to know that, because nobody knows ultimately how people get selected for an audit.
Right.
Okay. It's it's just not something that we can predict and all that. But when you get that notice of intent to audit, you definitely want to pay attention to it.
Does it automatically mean that you've done something wrong?
No, audit is not an automatic bad thing that happened to you. I mean, of course, the process is kind of rigorous. Like there are reasons why, what they're going to ask and why they are going to drill through, let's say, some expenses and all that. But ultimately, if you do it the right way, if you will, then it's not like it's an automatic bad thing that happened to, I'm getting audited, I'm going to be penalized and all that. It's not automatic.
Gotcha. And so how does the IRS even then go about deciding who they audit? How's that process even?
So once again, it's not like we know, but ultimately, for example, there are a couple of examples I can give you. If you have a big loss on your tax return,
I see.
Okay, something off that could throw it off. Okay?
I see.
Or something is jumping. It was one this year, another one too much next year. It's just something inconsistent, something jumping at them.
Major changes.
Yeah.
So then
could be anything.
Things like big changes in income or big changes in the deductions or those type of things.
Yeah, it could be all like business losses, like people deducting business losses against. Let's say, let's give it an easy example. You have a wage income. You work. You have a regular job. You make, let's say, $50,000 a year, right? And then you have a business on the side. And you're reporting $50,000 loss, and you're washing off your wage income with your loss.
Bye W-2 income. I don't have any taxes to pay.
So that's questionable to say the least. See. Or another thing that is hobby. Okay, so I have a hobby, and let's say you're a mechanic and you fiddle with the cars in your garage, right? And are you really there for business, for profit, for business? Or are you there as a hobby because you're messing with antique cars? You like having friends over in your garage, such and such. So if it's a hobby, then your loss is not deductible. It's only deducted against your hobby income.
Sure.
If it's business, then you can potentially deduct it. So rules are different. So if you treated your hobby as a business and deducted all those losses, that could be a problem in an audit.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we don't know how the IRS decides, but at least that gives you some insight on the types of things that can trigger, right? Yeah. Now, is there a difference between, let's say, a correspondence audit versus an in-person examination, and how you could get to those specific categories?
So but what I can tell you is that if it's in person, and let's say if it's like they interview a person, right? First of all, you do want to get like proper representation, because even though you're saying like, I'm truthful, I'm honest, I have nothing to hide, but you say one word and from that tax perspective, it's incorrect. Then you're kind of like, okay, you're testing to something, you're signing off on it, if you will. And the IRS can apply heavy draconian civil fraud penalties. So you just want to make sure that whichever way that audit goes, if you do go into that interview, you're honest, you're open, I have nothing to hide, of course. But those things can just hurt you down on the road.
Right. So then, again, I'm just thinking, if someone is being asked to interview or some sort of in-person audit with the IRS, that to me seems like it's a level up in seriousness, or is that not true? You
probably like once you get audited, once you get that intent to audit, and that goes not only with the IRS, but Florida. If Florida audits you for sales tax, it's kind of different, obviously, different jurisdictions, but the idea is you do want that person to represent you, because it's a layer between you and the auditor.
Yes.
And if you say something incorrectly, you're signing off, you're testing to something already, you don't even realize this is wrong and this is not what you're saying, right? For example, if you have multiple S corps, so multiple partnerships. Active versus passive determination makes the auditor can make a determination one way or the other, depending on whether your S corp partnership is active or whether it is passive.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you say something that gives it an indication that it's passive or active or whatnot, that can throw the number in a totally opposite direction.
Yes.
And you're not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
just being honest. Yes, you want to be honest, of course. But tax law is
Understand
complicated.
the implications. Exactly. Yeah.
So you do want
So then should they call you as soon as they get the letter then? Or should there be some process in between?
Some people, it obviously costs money to come to a tax attorney and even other professionals. Like,
Sure.
It's going to cost money. So some people, they just don't come to the tax attorney until it's really like, bad into the process. They have $500,000 in civil fraud penalties assessed, and the bill is millions of dollars. And they're like, I was honest. How did it snowball?
Right.
So at that point, it's harder to untangle the thing, versus come right away and let's take it step by step.
Exactly. So then, so that I understand, do some audit letters already come with an amount due? Like, we've looked at your filing and we believe that X amount of dollars is due to the IRS. Does that happen, or is that usually not that?
Yeah, typically audit comes where like they're just letting you know that they're gonna intending to audit you.
Okay.
So they're not saying if you're talking like your balance due is such and such, it's typically not an audit.
Okay.
It's typically like some kind of intent to levy notice or balance due notice or something like that.
That's different. Okay.
But audit meaning like they are intending to audit you. That's kind of the first typically letter you get. And then it puts you on alert that you're being audited.
I see.
But they're not going to make that determination typically until the end. And what's important there is at the end, they make that dollar amount determination. You have so many days to take your case to tax court. So if you owe millions of dollars, it can be a snowball. It can be a small taxpayer with $1 million tax bill out of nowhere.
Right.
So then like, okay, do you really want to consider going to tax court? Yes, probably, because it's huge.
It's huge, yeah.
Right. So,
well, that's what I think a lot of people get balled up about, is what to do when I can't pay. What should a person do when they're looking at a number, there's penalties, there's interest, and it's just like, there's no way I can pay what they say that I owe. What do they do in that scenario?
So there are various options. It's called tax resolution options that you could consider. I mean, one of it is installment plan. But once again, for the IRS to grant you installment plan, you have to be in compliance with your tax filing. So if we're talking 2022 tax year, that is a problem here, and you haven't filed your 2024 tax return, you're probably going to be out of luck with installment plan options.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Something to consider there. But there is non-collectible status option. Then there is offering compromise option. Then penalty abatement opportunities. So it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to be eligible. Offering compromise comes with strict guidelines and rules that you have to follow, submit such and such forms, prove your expenses in some cases. But ultimately, there are options out there to help you manage your tax debt.
So then let's say there's an individual who just doesn't want to deal with it. They buried their head in the sand and they ignore the audit. They ignore the letters. I can't pay. I have no money. And they just let it go. What can the IRS do? Are they able to then take money from your bank account, put liens on your property? What can happen?
So typically what I see when people run to me is wage levy. That's when everything snowballed. They ignored all those.
Ignored. Yeah.
And then suddenly they get a wage levy and they're like, okay, now we need to come to a tax attorney. And they can, but at that point, it's like, okay, well, where have you been?
Oh, I didn't know, Alina. I didn't know. Yeah. So at that point, obviously, if things get to a certain point, the IRS can garnish your paychecks.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they can levy your bank accounts. They can put a tax lien on your house. But the important thing to remember is that if you get certain letter, like a tax lien letter or notice, you do have 30 days to file for collection due process. If you do not, you potentially are missing very important appeals opportunity with an appeals officer who typically has settlement authority to settle your debt. Okay. And that's a huge miss.
How many years can they go back? Like if, let's say we're cruising along, everything's good, and boom, out of nowhere, can they say 2019, you had a problem here and we were auditing you? Yeah.
So it depends on whether the question is asked, whether it's collection or assessment. So if it's a collection question, how far back they can go back to collect. Typically it's 10 years. Okay.
Right.
But certain tax resolution processes like offering compromise and such and such can toll the 10 years. In other words, how long it takes you to go through that process is going to be tacked on to 10 years.
I see.
So that's another caveat.
But what about the fear of waiting for that the audit letter to come? So I'm thinking of like statute of limitations, like how long can they say that they're going to audit me for any particular tax year?
So I think you're talking not collection at this point. I think you're talking assessment. And
Probably,
assessment is typically they go back. The general rule is 3 years back.
Okay. Right.
And then if you're
so if I screwed up in 2021, I'm probably okay.
So 1 second. Disclaimer.
It depends. The lawyer answer.
Disclaimer. If you never filed your tax return.
Okay.
They can go back to the old year.
Yes. Okay.
Or if you omitted 25% or more of your, I believe, gross revenue, they can go back 6 years.
So there's caveats.
There are caveats. Or if it's fraudulent something, they can go back indefinitely. And if you never filed international tax form with your tax return, even though you filed the tax return, the missed or incorrect international tax form can open the door to an audit.
Yes, so that's a good segue. We only have a few minutes, but I do want you to touch on that because we obviously have people that live here, they have foreign assets, or, they spend part of their time here and so forth. So just in these last few minutes, what are some questions or topics that you just want to make sure people are aware of when they have IRS problems that have now crossed into international water?
The first thing, if you have a spouse that has international tax something, bank accounts, businesses, and such, but you do not, reconsider filing joint tax return.
Oh, okay.
Consider filing separate tax return. This is huge.
Yeah.
Because signing off on a joint tax return, you have joint and several tax liability.
Yeah.
Which means the IRS can go after you for 100% or after him for 100%.
Right.
But in this case, in my scenario, you have nothing international and he does, but you're still signing off on the tax return. So in that scenario, you definitely want to consider married filing separate. Now, CPAs, accountants, and all that typically don't explain that. And the reason why is because typically it's more tax benefit to file jointly. Calculation is better if you file joint. But are you ready to sign off on that international whatever?
Yeah.
That can be costly in the future.
Something to consider for sure. And then what about like if you have money sitting in an offshore account, is that something you have to report to the US, the IRS here? Or?
Yeah, it's called FBAR. So you have to report it not only to the IRS potentially, but also to Financial Crimes Network, which is separate from the IRS. Two places.
Interesting.
Depending on the thresholds and all that.
You have to make sure you're reporting these international things. Okay. Well, look, we always love to have Alina back. So I'm sure there's so much more we could have gotten into. We had to kind of speed it up. So we'll definitely have her back very, very soon. Before we go, please let all our listeners know how they can reach you if they want to appeal their property taxes, they have an IRS audit, or something they need to come to you for help.
Yeah. taxattorneylegal.com. 727-977-8270. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Perfect. And do you have any socials or things that you like to share? Or?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram,
Perfect.
YouTube. Actually, people on YouTube are watching me.
Yes.
That is a good
awesome.
thing.
Awesome. Good. So look for Alina Miles. She is on all the socials. And of course, we do personal injury. So if you ever need help with car accidents, slip and falls, you give us a call at 727-796-8282. And folks, we will see you next Tuesday, as always, with FLA Law live on the radio at 5 o'clock. Please tune in next week and we'll be happy to have you. And Alina, as always, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jacqueline.